What's all that? You met in the group with I don't know. Say hi to everyone. Should put this up. Oops. No, they come on Wednesday. For the recording, tilt the camera screen so little. More of your face and less of the ceiling. I think we can go to the table soon, because they'll be going to Thiru. So we'll have a better angle soon. Namaste everyone. Very warm welcome to Satsang today. Satguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai. Oh, okay. So should we jump right into it, or should we have some pleasantries first? Jump right in. I've often said that the most important things I've ever said, the important words I've ever said is, are you aware now? So what's the answer? Yes. Yes? Are you aware now? End of satsang? You can go. Because that which knows I am aware is awareness itself. There is nothing else which can be aware of awareness, but awareness itself. And you know I am aware. Everyone said yes. So what can be aware? I feel now I've become more like a school teacher this time. Because I've seen like this in the break also, I contemplated a bit. And I realized that we keep saying the same thing. So I feel I'll ask questions more now. Because it's very, very simple. And sometimes we get stuck in making a journey out of it. This is basically all that we are saying. I am aware. This I can be what? And I am already saying that it is only awareness that can be aware. Already the answer is also there. So all you have to do is either confirm this by looking or say this is not true. These are the only two. There is nothing to get stuck. You either say, yes, it is only awareness which is aware, or you say, no, it is actually the mind or the person or something else. So don't get distracted away from this question. Who is it that is aware?
In the moment of looking, what's happening?
Yes.
Its attention is turning on itself, or the moment of looking as to who is aware or what is aware. So what is happening instantly?
When attention is turned back to awareness itself, and attention is a tool for awareness itself, isn't it? So the tool of attention turning back into awareness itself knows that this is awareness which is now aware of its own self. I am aware of my own self.
The attention is
Okay, so let's take a negation process because that is usually simpler. Can the body be aware? Can a thought be aware? Can an emotion be aware? Is the emotion aware of you, or are you aware of the emotion? I am aware of the emotion. Same way for even being. You say, I feel the presence. I feel my presence. I know that I am. Isn't it? You're not saying I am knows that I is there, which is aware. Now don't lose me. Because here is the point where something starts to say, okay, I'll just meditate, I'm not ready. This is not, it's not needed at all. Because what I'm saying is very simple. Just like there is awareness of all different types of content, we are aware even of our own presence. That's why we know that there is a difference between sleep state and waking state. Okay? In sleep state, no presence, no sense even I am. In waking state, we say I woke up. What woke up? This sense of me, the sense of existence of this presence of I am. Even this being, although it is made so intimately made up of awareness itself, we cannot say that this being is aware of me. You say I am aware of the being also. And when being is not there, I am aware that this is sleep. There is no content to be aware of. But you are sharing rooms. You don't have to tell each other that you went to sleep last night. You already know I went to sleep. So we are aware of the sleep state. So this that is aware is also aware of itself.
there are no layers to that which knows itself. It's just like this one.
Yes,
It's
yes.
one
There are no,
substance.
we can say that there are no layers to this, but also you can say that all layers which arise, because layers is a phenomenal term. So all phenomena which arises comes only from this awareness. So all is within this or comes from this. We can say that. But we can never say that awareness has any quality except that of being aware itself or any attribute. You cannot say it has a color. So immediately when we contemplate this question, am I aware now? And the mind will come and dispute your realization. Actually, this is the realization.
Father, is this the same as Satchidananda?
Satchitananda is truth, consciousness, bliss.
Is this same as what is
We can look at it that way, or we can say truth is awareness itself, consciousness is being, and bliss is a byproduct. Like that. Or we can say that it is described to describe consciousness itself. It is the Satchitananda. Consciousness, beingness, bliss, all of these are attributes of I amness.
Bliss is not always there.
Yeah.
Does that mean that that is not the true state?
Bliss is not a true state.
But it's written in the scriptures and everyone describes it like Satchidananda. So it has to be.
In sleep, is there Ananda? So if you look at that as bliss, as a sleep state, for me is very blissful. So we can say Ananda, but it is not phenomenally tasted as this blissed out, not like that. So the truth is unmoving, unchanging awareness. Then Chit arises and dissolves within the truth itself, and Ananda, in the presence of unassociated being, it comes in your service.
Can you say that are you aware now?
Yes. It is the pointer directly to the truth. Unconcerned with even being. So bliss is of course much later.
Is it a three-step?
No, it's direct. No?
This is also part of
So if you remove Satchidananda from this conversation right now, am I aware now is completely direct. What are the steps you have to take to figure out that you are aware?
it should lead to Satchidananda.
The expectation that it should lead to Satchidananda could be the block to Satchidananda. Do you want Ananda or you want Sat?
I thought all are
But if you had to pick, in this discovery of the truth like this, Sat, then you will find that Chit, beingness, is also coming and going for me, that which I ultimately am. And bliss is something that is welcome, but is not something that I am feverish about, not something that is a desire for me. It is serving me, I am not serving it.
it's not an essential.
It's not essential. But you will say soon that as being is unassociated, you will not be able to say that there's a time where there's not too much love, there's not too much peace, there's not too much bliss. But you will not be concerned with the presence and absence of that.
I see it in a little bit like a parallel way. It seems to me that um, if we turn into our awareness, that basically alleviates suffering, which is the blissful state. So it seems to me that they're the same.
But what happens is that for awareness itself, it is one dimension away, the dimension where suffering is possible, is in the dimension of phenomena. So as we turn to awareness, then we find that which we are, which is completely beyond the concept of suffering. But that which we are is not concerned whether that got replaced by peace or love or joy or any of that. That's why I say that the spiritual search starts off like any other journey, a personal journey, saying, I want freedom from suffering. I want some peace. I want some love. But this is the only search which is marketed in this way. Yeah. But soon you discover something which is way beyond that. So it's a rare marketing which is actually underselling. Because that, if we were to get attached to even things like bliss or love, peace, then that would not be freedom. Because all states come and go. There is no state which has stayed constant. So if you have to get attached to any of these states, then when it goes, then we say, oh, I had it and now I lost it. It's so good, now it's so bad. Then we're still stuck in the phenomenal.
Maybe this Ananta is not that which we are thinking of. Some other.
There's a lot of confusion these days about concepts like this. So let's take for example love. This whole concept about love, isn't it? That love uh, is beyond all. Is beyond all. But love actually, when we're talking about this phenomenal love, then that is part of the waking state. There is no love in the sleep state. But if love, when you say love, you mean the non-separate oneness of awareness itself. The oneness of awareness itself, then that love is unchanging. And you can use it interchangeably with the self or with awareness itself. But we are not talking about the phenomenal tasting of this energy called love. Same could be said for bliss. And there is, like I said, sleep is very blissful. There is nothing, no phenomena, and yet it is very blissful. So if it's that bliss that you're talking about, then I could say yes. But if it is this bliss, blissy feeling, then that is coming and going. So that cannot be said to be constant. Nothing in phenomena can be said to be constant. Because phenomenality itself is coming and going. So if phenomenality itself is coming and going, then how can those things which are objects of phenomena stay forever? You with me, no? So that which gives rise to phenomena itself, if that is coming and going, then how can any phenomena remain unchanged? So unless we are talking about love, which is the oneness of non-separation, which is awareness itself, then I can say yes, love is the self. If we talk about bliss as the bliss of sleep, there is nothing, no experiencing. Then I would say yes, this is the bliss which is constant. But if you're talking about phenomenal objects, then you cannot say I am attached to that and I will give myself the freedom certificate only when I am in this constant state of bliss. Because many sages I have met in this life, and I have not met one who is constantly in a state of bliss. Have you met any sage who is constantly blissed out? No. So then we remove all of these false benchmarks and we see that that which I am, this awareness itself, is the unchanging I, the unborn I. It's the unborn, therefore undying. That which is unborn cannot die. And this you already are. This I already am. Then what's the fuss about it? What's the fuss about? It's only about the mind. It's only about the mind. Yeah, please.
When you say are you aware,
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like it's just that overview that I'm getting of at a mental level. You understand that? Not really the awareness, rudimentary awareness, not the real awareness. And it's like, and in the mental space, it's like an overview. So, that's like say you ask the question.
Sparkling what? The glass had some detergent. It's not right. This looks like the sparkling water you were drinking yesterday. Maybe we can ask her as well. Maybe the glass might have some. So she was saying that what I'm aware of is something which seems very rudimentary. But we are not even talking about what you are aware of. We're just talking about knowing that you are aware. The off could be anything. You see, this point is just so simple that it becomes next to impossible to understand. Even in the booklet that we have, the essence of self-realization, Garima and I were editing it together, and we were doing together. We had a lot of fun just going through it, and she was with me, so till the point of being, it's completely clear. And then when it came to this, I know I am aware part, she's like, this is just, I don't know who will understand this. This is rubbish. I shouldn't use those terms, but more or less. It becomes like this. It seems to be confusing. But what I'm saying is just that I am aware, not of anything. With me so far?
Yes.
I am aware. So I know that there is something called awareness.
Yes.
Is there any difference between this knowing and this awareness? There is no difference between this. You're just saying like that, or?
There is no difference. That's what kind of I know
the knowing. So this I that knows, isn't it the same knowingness? Is there a separate I from this knowingness? There is no separate I. So in what way is this rudimentary? This is the most explicit.
Like you said, you're aware of your body, body is not aware of you. But actually, 90% of the stuff that happens inside the body, I'm not aware. But
how do you know it happens? Yes, so it happens in the textbook. See, this is the switch. This is the switch. Because the universe only consists of that which you are aware of right now. Just like the dream only consists of that which we are dreaming right now. So that which I'm aware of, the light of awareness itself, the light of being that comes from awareness itself, makes that appear. That's all there is. That's why I say it's all about you, but not you personally. So all that is happening is only that which you are aware of. And even scientists are coming to this conclusion. They started exploring this from the days of Schrodinger's cat. But now it's pretty much clear. So that which we are aware of exists.
Just kind of picking up the thread there. So there is something that goes on in the body which we don't even realize. We just know from, let's say, our science textbooks or something like that. That's just because that's not happening in our phenomenon world. Is that what you feel?
Yeah, so as long if it's not happening in your phenomenal world, then it doesn't exist. Because your phenomenal world is the only world. The more important point, before we come to the illusory nature of the world and the nature of phenomena, is this point, which is that I am aware. So when we see that I am not aware personally, it is awareness which is aware of itself, then what else is there? Is there a person involved in any of this transaction of being aware? Now, what is left of the person? So, in the knowingness, is there something personal? There is nothing personal there. So, what is left of the person? Is there a person we still want to give freedom to? Is there a person we still want to give freedom to? I was saying to someone yesterday, maybe Sakri, that for me, when these words come, they seem like the most obvious thing. Like, this is it, everyone's done. But then it can be that just half an hour after satsang, I'll get an email or a message on Facebook that say, "Put my boyfriend down." What? We're talking about that which is unborn, undying. And I'm here sitting feeling, wow, everyone is just with me, you know. And very quickly it can be. So I want you to say yes or no. This is not true. Take a stand either way.
I think that's true, but what tends to happen
Yes.
is notion, conceptual notion of is in front of this.
Yes.
So the perspective is zoomed in and it stays there.
Yes.
And that's what feels the thing. And that emotional entity has an expectation of having this order. So that it always resides out here. And
Yes.
I think that is what is why people go back and forth and because you go back, I go back.
So this sense of going back and forth is the sense of giving belief to my personal identity or not giving. So that's what's happening. And then that's for this one, I've given you a master key, which is don't believe your next thought. So before you can even get yourself to a place where you can put on the pretense of suffering so strongly, I'm sure this one will just start appearing. This master key will start appearing, isn't it? But there are times I know also, and I've heard reports, that although it's clear to me that I'm believing my thoughts, there's something in that moment feels so righteous. You know, saying everything else is okay, but this is just right to believe these thoughts right now. And very soon after that, we realize it wasn't a good idea. So as more and more we do this back and forth, we see that it's never a good idea. It never, never, never is a good idea, no matter what the mind is telling. And if we still carry some hope that maybe one day this ego, this mind will come up with a good idea, then we are setting ourselves up for trouble. And we don't need to rely on this mind, because also I've led you to this point where you can see now that there is another qualitative energy which is available to you. And sometimes it can seem like you need some patience to get access to that. And this qualitative sense is the intuitive sense. The Satguru within is available like this because in your own design as consciousness, you've created two voices. The voice of the mind, which is me, 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 and the voice of intuition itself, Satguru or consciousness's voice. So those who truly feel and have seen that this mind is only leading me to more and more identity, to more and more suffering, to those, if they feel like there is something which still needs to be guided, there's some guidance still needs to appear, the intuitive voice will guide you. This coming to satsang is just getting access to the same intuitive voice. It is not like this body mind knows anything or if there's anything special about this one called Ananta. There's nothing at all like this. Although overall he's a regular nice guy. I mean, from whatever I see, he seemed like a decent person to hang out with. But there's nothing extraordinarily special about that. It's only that this instrument is being used well as for this voice, the intuitive voice. So, and this, you're getting access to that here, you can get access to that from within as well. So it is not like you give up hope on the mind, then you're left without any crutches to. Life itself is, like Guruji says, life is not vindicative. Life is always supportive. So life itself is a great guru to have. And within what we call life, there is also this intuitive presence which can guide us.
The intuitive voice is also guiding towards minimum trouble in the normal.
I've mostly seen like that. I'm not making any guarantees, but I've mostly seen like that. But it can seem like suddenly it can, as we start following our intuitive sense, suddenly there's a big explosion. It can often seem like that. But it is there. This presence can guide you through even the strongest explosions. The only trouble we get into in this very simple understanding is that we handed over this understanding to the personal identity, the understanding itself. The mind takes a claim to that and says, I know now that I am awareness. And this I is different from the I that is awareness itself. Huh? It still took on the imagined idea of the I and said, yes, I found it now. And then it can lead to all kinds of trouble like, why do I need satsang? Am I a good student? Is he the right guru? All this kind of stuff that comes because of this personal identity still lingering. So, if this simple seeing is not handed over to the mind, then I find nothing which is strong enough in the phenomenal world which can truly shake you.
Exactly where the stuckness is.
Yeah.
It's mind is to understand stuff. The label 5.
Exactly. Most of us, well, many of us are waiting for the mind certificate of freedom. For the mind to certify even more than the external certifications, even from the master. Yeah. And I saw this in my case also. It was never like an apparent certification. So I don't want to leave any of you with the wrong idea. But when it was sense that my master feels like there is some understanding here, it was still the mind was still come there. Are you sure? He could be wrong, Come like this. Because yesterday you got angry with Garima for something. So is it really the signs of someone with some freedom or something like that? So it can be these doubts can just keep lingering like this. And this settling takes a bit of time sometimes. So like he said, the back and forth can seem like this. But as long as the fundamentals are now clear. Because the bigger trouble is when the mind comes in the way of just a simple seeing that I am aware. And it is awareness itself which is aware of itself. So if this is done, then I'm very hopeful that the settling down process will be smooth. But if it's coming strongly in the way of this inquiry itself, And you must be able to admit, and we've had contemplations individually also about this. This contemplation is never tiring for me in satsang. If someone says, I'm trying to figure out what you mean when you say, are you aware now? Can you look? Can you ask me this 100 times, 1,000 times? It is never tiring. So this is, I'm always up for. So let's look together. Because the rest then we have to do, if we start at the phenomenal level, then we have to do the niti process and start discounting, and then come to this. But I feel most of you now, having been in satsang so long, can very directly come to this point that I am aware. Don't believe what your mind is saying about this. Because the label rudimentary, for example, is from who? So who is it rudimentary? It's not to pick on you, just to pick on this label. That the mind, one of the biggest tools of the mind or the tricks of the mind is in this direct seeing. It will say, but this is just too simple. It can't be this. There must be something glorious. And what does it say is glorious? A state. It is an upside down way of looking at things. How can a state be glorious? If a state is coming and going, then how can any state be glorious? What is being pointed at is unchanging. So what is more glorious? To me, that which is unchanging is more glorious. That's why also when someone said, we were discussing in one of the satsang, and I was saying that this whole concept of heaven, okay, but I've seen that there's a limit to any pleasure, visual pleasure, physical pleasure, audio pleasure, music, taste, the limits. So if I'm suddenly tomorrow I wake up in this place which is just full of heavenly angels and the best harps are playing, and the best food is available, in a couple of days I'm sure it'll be pretty good. So why would that heaven be so exciting? What's so glorious about that? It must be that which is unchanging, which is that which does not change irrespective of which states come and go. For me, that is glorious. And that is what is being pointed at. But because it's so natural, so intimate, it doesn't seem like, oh, it's something special. The other resistance which can happen sometimes is that when the contemplation is happening, it is seen that, yes, awareness is aware of itself. And then something tries to link that personally. Say, I got it, or I didn't get it, or something. You see? So this becomes a resistance. So when we link it personally and say, finally I got it, that's another trick. Oh, I never get it. The same trick. So we are not to try and give it personal attributes. It has always been that way. So it can be said conversationally that I have always been this, but only when we are speaking of awareness itself. Ananta can never say that Ananta has been awareness. Ananta never existed. It's like Rajan saying Rajan is awareness. There is no Rajan. What?
That's a very foolish question came. Suppose the angels stayed here forever, would you still be for them?
Yes.
Because it's unchanging.
There's something there. Although you said like that, that is my answer for when someone says, why was the world created? You see? You see? Because we say that what is glorious is the unchanging awareness. You see? Then awareness always exists. Then why does awareness have to create this world? Because it got bored of the unchangingness and wanted the entertainment of this phenomenal realm.
It feels like maybe the attribute is what makes it.
Uh,
Even if it stays forever.
yeah. See, you are eternal whether you like it or not. Nothing, anything can do about that. No phenomena can change that. Now you have to get used to yourself. You cannot get rid of yourself. You can try actually. We had this like an exercise once. Just don't be yourself. When you do it, who can do it? We're chasing ourselves. I want to get self-realization. I want to realize myself. I can't get rid of myself. So rather than changing, why don't we try to get rid of the self? Let's not be the self. Don't be the self. Who can do it? Just don't be. So that which you cannot stop, that we are chasing. You see, this is the trick of the mind. It's much, much, much more hilarious than looking for your spectacles when they're on your head. It's much more than that. We're looking for that which we cannot stop being.
Father, is it immortality occurs?
For the mind, it can seem like that. Huh? The mind, it can seem. It can seem like, even here, if someone was to say that this body will be immortal, I said, no, please. No. How many more years do you want the same kind of experiencing like this? I want to change it all. The good thing is that time is an attribute of your being. So even time and space is created by your will. And when time is not there, then there's no concept even of mortality or immortality. Because it's a definition based on time. This is your magnificence, which is much beyond anything the mind can fathom. Our magnificence is much beyond anything our mind can fathom. That which is prior to time and space. Let's see what's happening online. Jesh says, Father, Irina wrote, hello dears and Anantaji, wishing I was there with you. Please, can you send some love and healing? I am in Kovalam, can't open my jaw to eat, and very bad pain in the right jaw and ear. Feeling alone, however, not alone with you all, and of course, not separate. Thank you all. All of us are sending all our love and blessings to you. It doesn't seem like we've been on a break. Does it seem? We're just continuing, and we had a satsang yesterday. Vikas is here. Vikas Arora says, if I am consciousness, then why can't I create a new form or do miracles? I'm very familiar with this question because this is the question I took maybe 10 years ago to Swami Chinmayananji of the Chinmaya Mission. Swami Tejomayananji of the Chinmaya Mission. So I said that if all of this is my projection, then why can't I project a palace and all the riches of the world to myself? And he gave me the answer which I couldn't process at that time. He said, because you're confusing the small mind and the big mind. And what did he mean by that? When they refer to big mind, they're speaking of consciousness or beingness. And when they're referring to the small mind, they're talking about this personal identity, the ego. So it is the ego which is saying, I want this, I wish I could have this, this is what I need. But it is actually I as consciousness, the big mind, which is not related to thoughts. Thoughts are just an appearance within this consciousness. This one, which is projecting this like a dream. It is the big mind that you are, the consciousness, which is creating all of this. So just by knowing this doesn't mean that now our egoistic mind has some super ability or a cheat code in life. It doesn't work that way. It's a good thing. It doesn't work that way. Because we have this feeling that I know what I want or what is good for me. And many of us would like to just have this super kind of cheat code and create all kinds of trouble for ourselves. So this I, which is saying I am consciousness, is not the consciousness. It's still the mind. Eddie says, so if someone is harassing me every day, then I should have magical powers to be able to control my mind and not be affected by it. Eddie is here. Hangout, I don't see. Okay. Control my mind and not be affected by it. How do you control your mind? How can I apply your theory? My mind is affected by my environment, isn't it? So, it is a question of, you say don't give any importance to the mind. How is this to be done? So it must be done in a very scientific way. We must look first at what is this mind. When we say mind, what do we mean? So the way that we use it in satsang, we are referring to this bundle of thoughts. This bundle of thoughts and similar energies like memories, imagination, that is what we call the mind. Then your question is how not to be controlled by this mind. So let's experiment with this and see what is it that can be done. Since you're new here, let's look at this together. So if mind is a group of thoughts, and thoughts only come one by one, they can come very fast. It's just like a voice which is speaking. It can come rapidly or slowly, but it comes. So when there is a thought, we can say that this is the mind. Okay? So we're together so far. When a thought comes, we say that this is the mind. What can happen with this thought? What can we do with the thought? Very good to contemplate like this, just down to the basics. We can give it our attention, and we can also not give it our attention. But that's heavy duty sadhana. To pull our attention away from thoughts is also possible, but it's hardcore sadhana. So first is attention. The thought is coming, attention is either going to it or attention is not. So if attention is not gone to it, then no trouble. If no attention, then no thought, no trouble. But let's presume attention went. So the thought can come, I am not free. Attention went. Is that much enough to cause trouble? That much is also not enough to cause trouble. You also have to give it your belief. Okay? So it can come, attention can go to the thought, I am hungry. Okay? I am not free. I don't deserve to be in satsang. All of these kind of thoughts can come. But attention can go to them. But unless they have your belief, they don't have any power over you. See? So the way not to be harassed by your mind, the simple way, is to not believe your next thought. Then you will say that some of these thoughts are so strong that they come and automatically belief goes to them. You can see because that is our habit. Because our habit is to give them belief, you will say that, oh, but I can't control my belief. Attention is next to impossible, but even belief is so difficult. So those ones you will be able to identify, these identities will still get your belief. And you must inquire into those. So it can be a thought which is saying that I wish I lived in Rishikesh. So which identity is that talking to? Who is this one? So I wish I was a better parent. Okay, so the parent identity. So we can inquire into that and say, who is the parent here? Who is the parent? Can we find this entity who is the parent? And with this open inquiry, you will discover that there is no such entity. There is no person itself here which can take on identity. It's just been a mythical idea that we carry, that I am a person. So those which get your belief strongly, we must use into our inquiry, and then our belief will start getting withdrawn from this. And as belief goes more and more, attention will also start flowing to these thoughts. And in this way, we can get freedom from this seeming harassment of the mind. And once we are free from the harassment of the mind, then no force outside can harass us. And this, by the way, doesn't mean that we have some sort of passive existence. So someone is coming and bullying us, and we just, oh, I'm spiritual. It's not like that. It's not to believe passive thoughts also. Just you have to watch that sometimes the reaction can also come. We're just the witness of even that. Sometimes very strong, what I call Shiva energy, sometimes can come, and you're looking at that, you're wondering, wow, where did that come from? So it is not an aggressive or a passive state. It is a state of neutrality, which allows the freedom for all states to come in.
Can I share something? Like something's just coming.
Yeah.
So it just feels like right now, like it's just my projection of this whole space, and even the story of Satsang is just a story. Like it feels like it's a continuum because it's coming from memory that I was here before and you were there and same, don't believe. Just it really, you can't be so sure it really happened.
Yes. Yes.
It's just, it feels continuous because of memory.
Absolutely. So it could be that this is the only day that we experience this realm. We only feel that it is constant because of memory, like you said. Just like in a dream, we land up in a dream and we don't say, where am I? Who are these people? We know them. We interact with them. They seem familiar.
You can even say like a day because it just feels like now. Like,
yeah.
And
Just now. It's completely true.
and this it was like a dream that there was a seeking because that story is also happening now that there was a seeker. Like, I'm just this present. That's all.
And even this presence can go.
Yeah.
See, and I'm aware that this presence is here and this presence can go. And don't let your mind lull you into believing that this is too far beyond or something. Super simple, actually. That's why I say just try to stop being. Don't be for a minute. Who's aware of that? Who's aware that I cannot stop being? I am. This I is beyond even being. Although being is made up of I, it's made up of awareness itself. But it is actually remains completely untouched even by the presence and absence of being itself. So if it is untouched by the coming and going of the waking state, then how can some content in the waking state actually touch this I? This is the great power we've been given to make us, to make the eternal, the magnificent one believe that it's just this bucket of flesh and blood. Because without that, this game would have no juice. Because this question can be there, so why is God creating so much trouble for himself? Isn't it? That if I'm the unchanging, unconcerned, untouched one, then why all this? Why do I have to play this game of suffering? Because I was bored. And unless I have this power of belief, the power to pretend, the power of belief is nothing but the power to pretend. Unless I have this power to pretend, this game will never have any juice for me. So ultimately, even our suffering, I know it can seem a bit strong, especially to those who are suffering, but even the sense that I am suffering is a play of consciousness itself and enjoyed by consciousness itself. Then Vikas says, if I cannot create new forms or things I desire, are there enlightened beings who could do that? There are beings who are not even enlightened who I've heard can do that. The ones with siddhis and some spiritual practices who can do it. They can. And I'm sure there are many who teach these things also. But I have no idea about any of them. Just be aware of one thing, which is that that which we presume is good for me. How do we know that? Because what we are truly saying then is that life doesn't know, or the universe doesn't know, or God doesn't know what's good for me. I know. You see? I know what's good for me. Therefore, I want to have some supernatural ability to be able to project this in my life. So this one, let's first investigate whether this I is real at all before we can give it this credentials that it knows better than God what to do with our life. Before we can give it the trust, I know better than life what should appear in my life. Can we investigate who is this I? Does it have any existence at all? Isn't it just we've never experienced this I? We've only heard this voice which is claiming to be the voice of this I, and we give it so much importance. Just these thoughts. This is the ultimate question. The question is whether it is God or it is consciousness or being or life that we trust more, or do we trust this non-entity which only appears as a voice? And as long as this one has us in its hypnosis, then we'll seemingly struggle through this from desire to desire we go. Till we come to this point where we say, nothing actually is giving me this sense of stability, unchangingness. I don't come to this point where you say, nothing in this phenomenal world, how long will it last that I want? And once we come to this point, then to see the truth of what we are is very easy. But as long as we have this duality that, yes, I want to understand who I am, but I want these other things along as well, then it can seem like a long spiritual journey. And there is nobody, as Guruji says, who comes to the realization of the self and says, oh, can I have $1 million instead? Or could I have also, you know, it is only before freedom do we have the idea of the Janaka style freedom, which is the king who was free. Okay? It's not after freedom that we say, oh, I wish I had that kind of freedom. Because freedom means surrender also. It's part of self-inquiry, surrender, freedom, liberation, all of these are just what we come to when we realize the truth of what we are. So I refuse to accept this idea that I am not free or you are not free. I still believe in it. What else is there to get? What must happen? What is the criteria to give yourself the certificate? I'm done. What else needs to happen? You already saw that I cannot get rid of myself. I'm searching for the self and I cannot get rid of myself. Can that work together? So it must be one of the two that we say that where I am, isn't it? Who's still searching for the self? Searching for the self? Going once? Searching for the self?
Can I say something?
Yes.
Like something is just. So is it really possible that Ramana Maharshi never existed? Like
Yeah.
it's all just a dream?
Yeah.
And
It's completely possible.
it's just my dream. Like right now, he's. It's so beautiful. Like it just feels like it's so continuous. And there's a story that he was there. And I'm not being arrogant, right?
No. Why stop at that? Even this does not exist. If that is what it is, then even this does not exist.
Yeah, from the sense of awareness, nothing. It's all nothing. It's
all nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I say it's an appearance.
It's like creating a story that really doesn't exist. It's just created every moment.
It's very beautiful. But these insights, for the rest of you, let them flow on their own like this. Because if you start benchmarking yourself and saying, okay, but Radha today was saying that none of this existed, she even said Bhagwan never maybe existed. So then you can say that, either this is the wrong place to be because they're doing they're saying these kind of things, or you can say, but I don't have that yet, so I'm not there. Not like that. You stay with the sense of who you are, and all these insights will come naturally to you. That's why even Guruji says the core of the teaching is not that this world is an illusion and none of this ever happened.
मुल्ला आ गया शायद तूने करा ये वेंचर मुल्ला बन के आया आप शायद ओए गांडू अबुल बकर बख्तारी.
So then this is not the so as you stay with who you are, then let these insights come. There can be this insight. It can be that one day you wake up and you see that all of time and space is just like one ball, which is something I'm playing with. So all these insights can come. It can feel like one day you feel I can be at any point in the universe, wherever I want. I can go there, I can see it. All these can come, all these insights can come, but they are not the core of the pointing. They're insights that come along. The core is the discovery of what I am, which is prior to any of this.
It's amazing that you say this because all these satsang concepts were here.
Yes.
It was a very intense burning because I felt like I'm holding on to all of the concept would come before if I wanted to see that God is everywhere, the concept would come and it itself is a blocker.
Because it's like, I want to see God and that I does not exist. It's just too much. The satsang concepts were the most intense burning because you want to hold on to all of it. It's so glorious, it feels like. And all that has to just burn. But then there's this, Naza was saying that this personal sense of dropping away, dropping things is not true. And that is also very, very intense after me. You think you have to drop your thoughts. And I didn't drop my thoughts, so that's, but it just drops away by itself. Like you don't have to do anything. Nobody has to do anything.
This is very good to also point out, especially to those who are new to satsang, is that the power of belief is not personal. How can anything be personal? Because there is no person. Is it? So attention, belief, all of this belongs to who? To consciousness itself. This is consciousness having a monologue. Don't believe your next thought. Who is instructing who? It is consciousness playing as if it is teacher and disciple. They're not asking anything of the person. Very beautiful, maybe Azhar had posted or somebody had posted the other day. Something from Musin, which was, how can the shadow eliminate itself? What will the shadow do to eliminate itself? After a point, spiritual practices start sounding like that. It's like asking a shadow to kill itself. So I never wanted to be like a personal burden that I've given you. Don't believe your next thought is not meant to be a strategy. I've said this very often. It's not meant to be a spiritual strategy. It's not a cheat code to life. It's just heard like this. I mean, the recognition that I am this being. And there is nothing that I want from this phenomenal existence. Then belief itself cannot be given. Because all thoughts are about this me wanting something or not wanting something. It is the same thing.
Feels like, I think it's like there's a shift of, if you want, it's like a shift of power when you see that it's all you. Like until you see that it's all you, there is still like a wanting to be in the mind, and so there's like a wobbling, and then you start seeing that it's all only you. Then how do you want to separate like yourself from it? Like, the wobbling still goes on, but then there's more towards presence because it's just self.
I feel the break has been very good. Because it's given you the space to digest, which I can see in like a report also.
Very, very right when you gave the break because I felt very dependent on something.
Hey, I had a quick question.
You can come, my dear.
Yes, sir. I'd like to reflect on something you talked about earlier. You'd answered my question about how to control your mind. But in reality, how would this be possible? Because there are so many factors that influence our mind, and even the little bit of things bother us in day-to-day life. So how would it be possible for something major that happens in our life that we can just say, okay, this is not true, or this thought, I don't believe this thought, when the thought in reality it is true, it is an event it is a significant event that has occurred in my life. How can I just ignore it? I'd like to try and figure that out.
This is good. So he says, very beautiful question, which is that you say don't believe your thought and also don't give so much power to this appearance. But what happens when something seemingly so significant happens in my life? Okay? And the way to look at this is to look at what I am defining as me. And once we come to the clarity of who this me really is, then you will have trouble actually defining something as significant or insignificant. All of it will mostly flow through as neutrality. just another appearance. You see? So as long as there is this sense that I am this person, then in this person's life, something can seem like it's more significant or less significant. Once we come to the discovery that no person actually is here, you see, and it's not difficult to see this. Together we can see even now. You see? So let's try and find out whose life this is. You with me so far? So let's try and find out together, when we say this is my life, who is this me that this life belongs to? And if you have some answer that is coming for you, I'm open to listening to that as well.
No, that's fine. You could. I don't have an answer right now.
This is good. So this sense that this life is Eddie's or Ananta's is pervasive for most of humanity. And very few are looking at who is this one. But once our attention is turned to this question, and we are open to asking, we say, hey, actually there is no entity here. It can seem like, oh, this body is here, but this body doesn't have most of the problems that I'm worried about. Body is unconcerned about relationships, about money. So who is this one that says this is my life? It is not the body which is saying it's my life. When we look and look and look, and beings have looked for thousands of years, there's a seeming thousands of years, millions of years in this realm, and they've all come to the same conclusion, which is that this one just does not exist. Then what does? Because what is disheartening when we say, okay, it doesn't exist, then something scary comes out. Oh, I don't exist. It could be scary like that. Then if I don't exist, what I mean by that is you don't exist personally. So if I don't exist personally, then what does exist? It is God that exists. And some don't like the use of the word God, so we can say consciousness or being, presence, the sense I am, that undeniably appears in that which we call the waking state. So we're not denying the presence of being, we are only denying the existence of a person. So being exists. And this being, the mind being so smart, what it tries to do is, and this is a subtle point, so just pay attention if you can a little bit. So once it is seen that no person exists, then what is the trick of the mind? It says that this being itself is the person. It tries to make a person out of God. Out of the presence itself, it says this is person. So for that, what we must do is look at the limitations or the limits of this being or the boundaries of being. And initially it can seem like this being is contained in my body. But actually, if you were to look, you will find that the body is experienced as a set of sensations within this space of being. Okay? And if you come to this point, then most of what it feels like this worldly attack will start to fade. Once you start to come to this realization that this body is nothing but a sense of sensations which I experience inside my own state of being, space of being. And I see that this space of being is infinite. There is no starting or ending point of this. Then the body identification or the sense of something happening to the body, attacks happening to the body, this will subside to a great extent once this is seen. So what is here is this being, the root of all phenomenal existence, in the presence of which that which we call the waking state appears. But this being is not personal. The mind makes it personal by you giving a belief in the thought which minds are giving to you. You see, without that, can you be attacked without, can you suffer without believing a thought?
I agree. I would not suffer without believing a thought. At the same time, if I apply your theory towards all thoughts that are negative, to make my life better, but I could also apply your theory to all thoughts that are positive, and it could restrict me from being inspired or motivated to doing anything. Because if ultimately, if this is all a play of the God or the energy, and the energy is ultimately going to do whatever it wants to do, then I don't have any use of my existence, or if I don't even know how to define that, but I get, but no matter what I do, I cannot control the outcome. Correct? So I could also say I don't want to do anything because it confuses me to think about it sometimes. But thank you for your answer.
No, this is good, and we're not done yet because this is one of the most common objections. The first objection is, okay, but if I'm not the doer, then I won't do anything.
Exactly.
And second is, if I have no choice, if it is only consciousness of God which is doing everything, then I can just do whatever I want. I can go around killing people. I can just be the most irresponsible.
Correct.
One is to say I can be vegetative or not do anything, and second is to say I can be the most irresponsible, person walking the face of earth. And these are very common objections that I hear. But once we see that I as a person does not exist at all, then the question of personal doership does not arise. Because the question of free will versus God's will is a never-ending debate. But it is premised on this sense that there must be something separate from God which can have free will. But in our contemplation and our inquiry, it is seen that there is nothing that exists besides God or consciousness. Then whose free will are we talking about? Who has been doing so far has also been the same consciousness. You see? And what will continue to happen is the same. And you are that. That which you are labeling yourself to be never existed. You are this consciousness. You are God. That's why I say if you want to see God pretending to be a person, believe your next thought. You see, this Maya is like this. We have so much faith in the existence of that which we cannot find. So I say, can we look for the person and identify this person? We cannot find it. We say, can you stop being? You cannot stop being. So being is always present. But we're in constant denial of this being and constantly believing ideas about the person which never existed. It's like this. So when we see that this conscious presence is what I am in my phenomenal form, then this whole sense of personal doership starts to fade because there is no person to have any doership. So the sense of control or sense of running up my life will start to dissolve. And it comes with this fear. So it's very natural for the fear to come that what is going to happen to my life. But you see that once you let go of this sense of control, it just so easily just flows. Everything flows without any sense of fear of outcome. So rather than contemplating this question of whether the person has free will or not, let me lead you to the contemplation of this question, whether the person exists or not. First, if the person exists, then the person can have free will, isn't it?
Sure.
You spent a long, long time exploring and debating questions of free will, and that whole entire time I feel could be saved if you just instead contemplated on the existence of the personal entity in the first place. Very good, very good. Welcome to Satsang, my dear. Good to see you. Okay.
Thank you.
Omkar says, Father, there was a seeing of the following. There is the body, there is the story of a person. These are not joined, yes, but they are somehow joined by another thought and belief in that thought. And the body is only a thought. And it is the person who has the body is the correlating thought. So it's just the misunderstanding about this I, which is the root of all this trouble, of this game. So we were saying, who is still searching for the self? Searching for the self? Nobody is looking for the self? What are we doing here? Am I that scary? No. Nobody comes up. You see, what the point I was making is that we cannot even let go of the self. We cannot even push it aside. Because it is what we are.
When does it stop?
It cannot stop. The
When
self.
does it stop?
When you see this, when you see that you cannot stop being the self, you are the self, then what are you searching for? It's like I was looking for my body. The body is here. Now what do I look for? It's here. Even more intimate than that. It's just like you've been conditioned into believing that you must find your body, suppose. Yeah? Then you've spent your entire life looking for your body. And then there are no mirrors in that world. And suddenly you come to this special place called Satsang, and all there is a mirror. Oh, already I have the body. Stop looking. Yeah. So our entire life we've heard we must find the self, we must find this, we must find that. And you come to Satsang and you see for yourself. It's not a belief that I'm giving you. This is the important point. You see for yourself that I am the self, and this awareness which is spoken of. You stop looking. Unless you're looking for some byproducts as well of finding the self.
I was just going to say that because I think even like when you listen to that in a sense something escaped. Right? So when you listen to all of those people, they all seem to point to a dissolution of something not being there, whereas it's not felt that way. So maybe
Can I tell you that, and I rarely say this, but I should say it more often, that an awakening experience is not required for awakening. It can happen, but it's not a requirement. It's not a prerequisite.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was finding these books from Ramana's life, where the devotees were talking. It's like it's very distasteful somehow how they spoke about their experiences, because it felt like it's just creating a lot more confusion. They were not, because they were talking about their experience of the merging with the self, and it was like really like no. I don't know. It just felt really like it clears absolutely nothing. It just makes more confusion.
Anything which is giving you an expectation of some experiential thing happening for you to be free can safely be kept aside. And then one day you might come to a place where, yes, when you're so just relaxed in the truth, that you can just read it as stories completely fine. So I also don't feel that we must be very reverential to the past now. There's some group of devotees, just like this, sitting around, but they shared many experiences and they're written down. Then if somebody 300 years later is going to read that, it will be a big trouble for them. No, forget about it. Bhagavan is very clear in his pointing, so you can stick with that. You don't have to get confused. Vedika might not like what I'm saying. It's true. It's also what is just available right here, right now, is enough for your direct discovery of the truth. So you might actually, I say this sometimes, and some fear also comes up that will this be perceived as arrogance or something like this, but sometimes it just comes up so strongly to say, so I say it, which is that sometimes you might even pick up a scripture and you might look at it and you might say, but there's something wrong with this verse. It could be corrected a bit. It seems like that. Once you've seen the truth for yourself of what you are or already have been, then there is truly no need to then be that reverential to that which were meant to be just aids for us in service to our freedom, not the other way around.
I have this question to come up saying, when it was clear seeing that Ananta had at such an early age, why did he lock himself up for that many years and shun the world? What was actually happening?
For some, it can play like that. After I met Guruji for some time, I felt like being quiet for a few months. But it's not, none of this is a prerequisite. No? This is the trouble with when we read about the past. If we feel that it must always flow like that. That is the way the truth emerges. But no two stories are ever the same, even of two sages. So every expression of consciousness being unique, also the discovery of the self, how it plays out can be unique. It might be that after this satsang you don't speak to anyone for a year. It can be. Ramana didn't know he's going to be quiet. Or you might want to start sharing tomorrow. I log on to Facebook and I say satsang with Soumya. I start sharing immediately. Everything is possible.
But there was never a time when Bhagavan locked himself up.
No, just in that silence. He was in silence for long.
Funny side note,
Yeah.
just letting things be, non-dualship, and kind of relaxing the last couple of months, and definitely added on a few pounds to me.
Yes, sir. Lots of pounds to me.
I'm wondering, oh my God, maybe it's not working, maybe I should.
So, there's this app I discovered. I'm a big geek actually. So I discovered this app called FitStar, and it seems very nice. I also found, if you're interested in yoga, I found Yoga with Adrian on YouTube, which is very nice because she keeps it very light. She makes jokes, so I enjoy that. Also, I discovered this app called FitStar, which you sort of enter your statistics into it, and then it customizes a plan, and it has some very good reviews. Everybody who sees me now after a gap of a few years, yeah, you have put on a bit of weight, haven't you?
You guys are fitting into my clothes, and I said, it can't be. I have not changed. I mean, everything is flowing very beautifully. And then I'm not fitting into all my clothes. I'm like, okay. Flowing to flowing to change the conversation.
Oh, I missed some messages. David was here, Shanti. Ram. Shivani is here. How did she manage to get married? How did you manage to get married? Anyway, we'll keep that for post satsang conversation.
In their minds.
In the mind, yeah. And then Chulani was here. She said, "Thank you so much, beloved Ananta ji. It is so beautiful to be with your miraculous presence. Thank you so much. With so much gratitude and love. Going to give others space, wishing you all well in health. At your holy feet, bye for now." Thank you, my dear. Vikas says, "I am very comfortable being a witness." Is there even a witness, or is there just a witnessing? So it is not the testimony of the witnessing that it is comfortable being the witnessing. I know some of these words can sound a bit abstract and confusing initially. But we're so used to assigning personal attributes to this I. And once we discover that I'm not a thing, an entity, a noun at all, then who is that which is comfortable being a witness? You can look at that a little bit. But I cannot believe that all this creation has come out of me. Don't worry about that. That's what I was saying earlier. Just stay with the discovery of who you are. Then we'll worry about the phenomenal creation and where it is, how it functions. We can worry about those things later. Maria says the mind is searching for the self. That which does not exist wants to find that which is always present. If it wasn't so close to home, then it would be a big joke, actually. Tulsi says, "We'll leave, Father. Thank you for your reminder." Oh, yes, the 1 hour thing. 1 hour thing. But are there people waiting to get in? They can tell us on YouTube. If there's nobody, you can stay. Oh, you have to take a nap. Okay. It's too early. Oh, Wednesday will be really fun for you then. Okay, my dear. Have a good nap. Good to see you again. So Wednesday, what are we doing? 9 or 9:30?
9.
Are we doing 9? Maybe we do 9:30.
Want to do 9:30?
Will that still be okay for the US?
Yeah, that'll be 8 p.m. then for California and 9 o'clock for
Maybe it was this bathroom. Or maybe 9:30.
I want to talk about my job because if I go to work, I'm suffering. It's guaranteed almost. But I'm starting to wonder if what's really causing the suffering is worry about the suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I shouldn't be suffering. Because I spend so much time in satsang. And then I go into this place, it's like, it's a pressure cooker. So I'm going into this pressure cooker and I'm going to be under pressure and heat. And so I react to that, and I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and then I feel like a failure because I'm cooking in that. You know, I feel the pain
So it can seem like something happens. So just like an interaction here can happen like this. I say something unkind to you, or I haven't done my work properly, and you're my boss, and some reaction can come to that. What happens after that is that some thoughts will come and say, but you're better than that. You're in satsang, you should be peaceful. This one is the more trouble, you see. So let me look into this, because I was contemplating this during the break also a little bit. So let's just there's no separation like this, but just to make it simpler, if we can say that there are grade A emotions, which are the spontaneous, anger, some greed, some lust can come. All these grade A emotions can come. But there are these secondary emotions, grade B emotions, which rely on thoughts about the first emotions. You see? So guilt, pride, these kind of things, which resentment, guilt, pride, resentment, maybe we can make a list as we go along, are the grade B ones, which are judging the grade A emotions coming and saying, using those to say you're not good enough yet, or you're still stuck over there. So what if you were able to say that we will be completely free flowing with the grade A emotions as they come? Because they just come, we don't create that. This comes and the reaction comes, something happens. So at least can we start with the grade B, which is to say that I will not be guilty. Because it's just making it worse. It's a vicious cycle. So what the mind does is a double whammy. So it gives you all those angry thoughts, which in those moments are expressed, but the double whammy is that it also then gives you and says, oh, but you should not have done that. And something buys that. So at least can we cut off this part, which is after the fact. What happened just happened. And maybe it is good for it to happen. Because if this place where you work is saving hundreds of lives every week, if not every day or every month, whatever the time frame is, then maybe it needs that Shiva energy for someone to be shouting at people. We don't know that. But it's not an excuse that I'm giving you. But I'm just saying we don't know what anything is for. Isn't it? So at least if we cannot believe our thoughts about our emotions, which were expressed spontaneously some time ago, then it saves us from guilt, resentment, these things. Maybe once this kind of secondary grade B burden is taken off, then maybe even something starts to flow in grade A. Now the trouble is that we want to fix that, these spontaneous things that come. I want to be like this, I want to be like that.
I have no friends. Yeah.
Do you have friends?
Yeah.
So also, you might find that life changes very rapidly when you're here, wherever you're meant to be. So the important thing is that there's a set of emotions which just appear spontaneously, just like thoughts, and sometimes they carry so much energy about them that the body responds to them on its own. So there is no space there for anything to happen. But at least when we are getting thoughts about, oh, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have got angry, I shouldn't have said this, at least can we stop believing this? And then the guilt will go. And when the guilt goes, then some of that burden will be lightened. So it's nice for me to see like this that guilt is also an emotion, but it has a different energetic quality compared to just anger. Because it's something which has been fed through belief. It's been nurtured through belief. It's just like anger is like a firecracker. It just comes and explodes and goes away. But this guilt thing is something like a plant which is growing and growing. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. So let's cut off this belief infested plant and say, I have a master, Guruji is my master, and he said he's taking care of everything. So I must trust that and say, okay, even the explosions that come through here are his will. Or whatever works. So let's to not believe our, at least our grade B thoughts, which are just building on this secondary emotion. We can do this. This will be a beautiful contemplation for us to also have and see which are these thought dependent emotions, like guilt, pride, resentment. They need these thoughts. For anger, for lust, you don't need this. It just comes momentarily and it goes. So I've seen this with lust also in a big way. That I'm supposed to be this way, I'm spiritual now, I cannot be. So much guilt about this rubbish. Nothing. There's more space to flow. But still, most importantly, it is to stay with the discovery of who this I is. Even more important than healing happening to guilt and to any of the secondary emotions, even more important than that is to really, truly, who am I in all of this? Is this really my life? Or is it just...
I don't like this one at all. No.
And this one, sorry if I put you on the spot a little bit.
No, it's fine.
So this one who doesn't like it is which one?
Yeah.
Is it?
I understand that, but I forget. It's a pest. You know, I keep believing in it because it just feels real. When I look for it, it's not really there.
You're speaking of the identity.
But I'm not living from the place of understanding that all the time, you know.
So, if there is no you, personally, then the one that is living is only consciousness. And I know this can seem a little bit different from what you've been hearing, but this is just what's coming up right now for me to say. So, it can seem like now that I know the truth about myself, I should be able to live from there. But the one that is saying I should be able to live from there is still not the truth. So even this one must be left behind. But the only one that is living is consciousness itself. You say yourself that when I look for it, it doesn't exist, this person or this identity, isn't it? So if it doesn't exist, then how can it be living? So the one that is living is the one that is playing this entire game. And this one is consciousness, is God. And the interpreter comes in and adds subtitles to this movie. Saying, see, you played that as a person, you played that well, you played that badly. Just the subtitles of the movie, it makes no difference. In fact, they're completely inaccurate anyway. It's like the Obama interpreter at the Mandela funeral. I don't know whether you saw that. It's just the interpreter saying, you did this, you did that, you shouldn't have done this, do that, you should know better now, you've been in Satsang, so something. Throw it away. It's still the voice of the mind. What is happening is just what is. Then every moment becomes fresher. Every moment is fresher. Even the freshness anger is coming. At least it's fresh anger. It's not based on some prior guilt. There is no Ombati. And it is not a burden. The truth is not a burden for Omvati to carry because Omvati doesn't exist. All of this is just consciousness playing as it wants to. You were saying the other day that in this realm, the entire extremes are available. Both extremes are available in any aspect. How does that happen? If everyone was individually a person and living their life, and how would this spreading out of the extremes happen? It's very clear that it is just one consciousness which is playing all of these roles. Because it wants to experience the entire spectrum of experience. And you are just the witness of all of this. Not even a witness, because there is no witness entity, you are the witnessing. Sometimes when we say awareness, it can be a misleading term because it feels like a noun. It seems like a tangible thing, I am aware. It's actually just a verb, closer to a verb than a noun. It's just a witnessing, a knowing, a seeing. You're a seeing. So that seeing cannot have any of these attributes which a person can give to themselves. Once you see this, that's why when I say, are you aware now? You find that just awareness is here. But it has no qualities. Are you with me?
Yes.
So it has no qualities about itself. And it's not doing anything at all. And still it watches, it's aware of the play of doership happening in front. But it is not touched by it.
I know this.
Yes. There can be the sense for some time that is that, like he was saying earlier about this sense of back and forth, and it can seem really painful for some time, isn't it? That I see the truth about myself, and yet in my behavior, in my interactions, I don't come across like Guruji or Ananta all the time. We've seen the same truth. The mind can have these sort of interpretations. The thing is just to stay with this thing. Don't believe this. It's just interpret the interpretive energy of the mind. Don't believe any of that. And very soon you might find yourself surrounded like this. Just like that.
Just to take
Yes,
the
yes.
same situation. So it can seem like you just take this a little further. You can either deal with it or change.
No. This you being who now?
This, that's where I'm getting to. So
Okay.
that's where the question is coming from. Can you talk a little bit more about the flavor of how the decision, when a decision is required and it gets made, what does it feel when when you're making it from a space of just looking at the facts versus having, oh, I love it or I hate it. You're talking because at the end of the day, there are calls to be made.
Yeah. By who?
Yes. So.
So there are two aspects to this question, and maybe we should make some highlights of these parts of satsang because the question of doership, free will, they come very often. So it'd be good if we watch them. But that's what I said even earlier, that very quickly the mind wants to go to the qualitative aspects of decision making. Yeah? But I want to keep you to the point of who is the one that has to make a decision. And somewhere the sense is that, okay, I know, it's awareness and I'm awareness and there's no real decision maker, but still in real life, some decision, it can be like that. See? This is the commentary of the mind, which I've heard often. But it's all rubbish because there is no real life, outside of Satsang, all of this is just the same. So the decisions which have to be made are being made by consciousness itself. How does it decide? Only consciousness knows. Sometimes it can seem like it's just moving on its own. Sometimes it can feel like it's in deep contemplation, deciding. As long as it's clear that there is no individual me, then there will be no trouble with decision making.
Consciousness sometimes plays as person.
Only consciousness plays as person.
Only?
I mean, there's only consciousness. Therefore, consciousness plays as person or doesn't play. Yeah.
So when a decision is made, how do we know that whether the consciousness?
Who? How do who know?
The consciousness which is playing as a person. How does that?
Yeah. So, if it is a result of just believing the thought, then it is consciousness playing as a person. If it is following the intuitive sense, then it is consciousness following the Satguru or following itself.
In all the small decisions.
Yeah. So it's like your hand went up and down just now. Was that a decision? It wasn't. It was a spontaneous flow.
But at work, we may have to make some decision.
Yeah. So if you decide to play as a person, then you will follow your thoughts as God and play them. If you don't, if you decide not to be the person, then you will allow it to just flow on its own.
As a person, you don't need to make a decision at all.
There is no need to make a decision at all. And yet decisions will happen on their own. Okay. Your question was, as a person, do I need to make decisions? No. Because as a person, you never exist. Something is not satisfied, so I'm looking still. Okay, you have a decision at work whether I should look for a job or stay with my current job. Let's take that as an example of a significant decision. In the past, have you made a decision like this? When you look back at it, do you feel like it just flowed that way, or there was an individual decision that happened? Okay, so how did that decision happen?
Because maybe money was involved.
Money was involved. Some thoughts came that your quality of life will be better. Okay? So consciousness, playing as a person, made that decision.
So it was not an intuition. Was it an intuition?
No. And yet it is only God who did it. There is only one doer and one experiencer, which is consciousness.
Even when the consciousness playing as a person takes a decision, it may not be a wrong.
Of course not. We seemingly right in the phenomenal sense. Just the other day we were discussing politics and who should be president and things like this. It's phenomenally. So somebody asked, I might get in trouble for this. Somebody asked, who are you liking right now? And I said, looks like Bernie Sanders seems to be a decent guy. It's nothing to do with reality, but it's the phenomenal play.
So I was thinking that we should just give it up to the intuition. We will get an answer or something.
Yes. And that's completely possible. But there's no trouble in the sense that you don't have to have this sense that, oh, somebody asked you who you liking for president. No, I'm too spiritual for that. Just have a conversation. Come like that.
How do we know that?
As long as we are not confused and we're not confusing ourselves to be a person, then all of this flow can happen.
When do we know that that's the personal flavor?
When we're going from the sense of need, from the sense of what's in it for me, then somebody really wants to come in.
But with respect my decision at last to job change, so because consideration of money also.
First, you're clear about who the decision maker is. Okay.
At that time, consciousness was playing as a person. That was mine.
Exactly. All of this is just one big game. Consciousness playing as a person, then consciousness creating the environment of satsang, where consciousness is reminding itself that it is not a person and it does not need to follow thoughts. It's all the game of consciousness itself. In the game, this role which has been assigned here is to remind you not to believe your thoughts. But I will not say if you believe your thoughts, you become a person. I say still, as consciousness, you decided to play as a person.
As long as it's not troubling, if the trouble is not coming, even if it is being played as a person, the decision is being made as a person.
Everything is always fine. Everything is always fine because actually nothing has ever happened. But my job in this play is to remind you that you are not this person and therefore you must not indulge in thoughts. But if you do it, then it is not like you become a person. It is only consciousness which is playing as a person still. As consciousness, you decided to play as a person.
So if the decisions are made that way, the personal mode, they can be the right decision.
Yes, from a personal perspective. It's a dichotomy which you're trying to solve.
So my confusion is basically living with an intuition or deciding.
Whose question is this? Why have you decided to play as a person right now? When you know that it is only consciousness which is the decision maker and the experiencer and the doer, why do you need to be bothered with it? So it's not consciousness without playing as Tarun, which is having this question. So it is Tarun having the question. Isn't it? Consciousness playing as Tarun, but Tarun having the question that what should I do now? I am saying that there is no Tarun. So let consciousness run your life.
And yet, sometimes it may have to play.
Of course. Of course. Of course. You don't walk into a restaurant and someone says, how many? You say 3 people and me, or something like that. You're just saying 4 people. You have to put on that sense that I'm a person. Conversationally, it's completely fine. That's why I keep saying I don't want anyone to become Advaita police. Conversationally, we talk normally. We say, how was your day yesterday? What did you do? Were you sick? Were you better? So you can say consciousness playing as a person. But as long as there's no belief that I'm a person, it's completely fine. Playing is very important. I think you're using it a little more trivially than it is meant. It is all just a play of consciousness. Playing means there is no belief in the personhood, it's just a play. So the word playing is important.
Playing without belief.
Playing means without belief.
It's a doctor game.
Oh, I see what you mean. Also, it can seem like even the entire time of where you're going about being a person before coming to satsang, that was also a play of consciousness. That's where you're coming from?
At that time, it was a belief.
Yeah, it was a belief.
Now
it's just like a play, which is just conversationally we can see that I am just this presence, but there's no sense that I can ever become a person. But I can still have to play as a person, play as a husband, play as a father.
Which is same as giving it up to intuition.
Leaving it up to intuition, but also it can be that once in a while a thought comes, like it can be that okay, after after 10 standard, which school does my son have to go to? I can look at some websites and evaluate and do some of that. Completely fine.
Both are not mutually exclusive.
It's not mutually exclusive. As long as there's no belief that in the personhood, then this will cause trouble. The point is about belief in what you are.
So since there is no belief in the person, so negative things will not happen. Obviously.
No, nothing like that.
Inactivity.
The sense that something is negative will not happen. Because you remain in the.
Need to be done will be done. Also.
There's this sense that what I'm trying to avoid giving you is the sense that after you discover that you're not a person, this whole existence becomes all chocolate flavored all the time. It's not the case like that. But what does happen is there's so much neutrality there and acceptance of whatever appears. There's no trouble even if pain emerges. So pain does not convert into suffering because pain is also accepted. Because there's a sense over there which I'm getting, which is that, okay, if I just follow my intuition, means life will become all hunky-dory. No. After following intuition, you might feel like you experience the greatest pain also. You say, this can't be. I went with my intuition and my intuitive sense was so clear about this and so much pain is here. It's completely possible because it has to burn that. So intuition is to take you to the point of the self-discovery of what you are. It is not a pain avoidance mechanism. So it could be that following a thought can seem to be less painful sometimes and just be true to our intuitive sense. But this is what is more important for our freedom, for our seeing of the truth. Otherwise, who would come to satsang? Many times, especially when the rubber really hits the road and the person is asked to leave, then it can be a truly painful experience. And at that time, if you get out of here and all this mind stuff will come. And some do leave, so they avoid that momentary pain. But if they've just sat with me during that time, and I know it can hurt when it's like spiritual ego, all the varieties of the ego are being crushed, and it can feel like it's actually a physical pain. So just to stick it out and feel them. As I said, intuition is not a pain avoidance mechanism. It's pointing you to the truth, and all this false identity which has been carried, to sometimes to throw it away, for it to be burnt is pain. There is no cheat code available to life. Just go with your intuition and everything will become so beautiful. I will know the perfect job to pick. And I will know. Yeah, it's not like that. Sometimes intuition might lead you to a job which you just can't bear and you quit in a week. Yeah. Completely like that. Because what you needed at that point was to come to Satsang Hall. The mind cannot understand the ways of intuition. But intuition is always pointing us towards the truth of what we are. And sometimes in the most inconvenient ways. So, just to encapsulate, because you might be a little confused, what I'm saying is that when the sense is there that you have a choice between following your intuition or your thoughts, follow your intuition. But even if at that point some thoughts were followed, know that it is a part of the play of consciousness itself. No picking up secondary guilt and saying I should not have done this. So, Okay, let's have a last question. We said we are going to be very strict with the 2-hour thing now. Let's see how long it lasts. Okay, who wants to go first? Kavita says, Father Pranam, may I ask something? You can.
Just have to go.
Good.
I'll be right outside.
Yeah.
Have some water.
Yes. So, are you coming? Kavita is coming or no?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. I was waiting for permission. Sorry, I didn't realize. So
No
the
worries.
question I had is that where does love fit in? Like, bhakti. As long as there's a you, as long as I feel that I'm not, I am, then there is a sense of you, right? So where does this love, prayer, bhakti come in? Is it all neutral always? But then where is this joy? If do I have to be neutral at all times, or can I play with this love also? And with that love, it's easier, isn't it, to identify with the beloved? So that's the question. I mean,
Very good. So, let's look at this very closely, and it's very nuanced. So, let's go step by step and really look at what this love is. Mostly, in the world, when we look at the concept of love, it is actually need which is being mistaken for love. When you say, I love this one so much, I just love this one so much. Maybe you want to have a sense of ownership, you want to be, it's more of a need, which is the mind's version of love. The mind's variant of love is to say, this, the desire to cling, the desire to own is what the world mistakes for love is mostly need. Then there is this sense of just love, energetic presence of love, which I say is in service to being, in service to unassociated being. Because once being remains unassociated with the concepts of personhood, it finds that this energetic presence of love is just filling to the brim most of the time. You won't say all the time, but most of the time it's filling to the brim, this energetic presence of love. So this is after we find the sense of this unassociated being. So love is in service to this unassociated being. Now there's another flavor of love which he was talking about, which is devotion. Now why have I said often that the devotee's life is the simplest? It is because doership is the strong leg of the ego, the strongest leg of the ego. And what does the devotee say? My life is my father's problem. Isn't it? That's true devotion, the surrender. My life is my father's problem. So even if it might seem dual initially, there's a me and a you. But it's beautiful to have this sense of devotion because it means that I surrender to your feet. Whatever you want to do with me, it's yours. And very quickly, what happens with this sense of devotion is that because doership has now been handed over, you discover that me and my father are one. Automatically, without all this effort and trouble and understanding intellectual concepts and things, so simply, devotion leads you to a point that initially it starts off by saying, my life is my father's problem, And then it comes to this point to say, me and my Father are one. So that is the role of devotion, which is the surrender at the feet of God, at the feet of your Master. So it has a very beautiful role. So it's also been in satsang many who have come, who have not felt to inquire, not felt to look even. You just come with a sense of devotion. I feel that you are taking care of my life, everything will be fine. And now you speak to them, they are speaking scripture just on their own without even reading any of these words earlier. So devotion is like that. So this is the phenomenal experience of love and devotion. Both very beautiful. Both very beautiful. Then there can be the sense, like when the sages have said that love is beyond all. And then when we look at it, we say, but this is not beyond all the love. This came and it went. This devotion is also a little up and down for most. I have been there myself as a devotee, so I know it goes up and down. So it's not a constant state. So what do they mean when they say this love is beyond all, it's constant? They are talking about the sense of no separation, the oneness, which is the sense of being this awareness, the self itself. So when there is no sense of separation, then it is love. That is also called love. It's the most beautiful form of love. This oneness is the truest form of love. But I don't use love synonymously with awareness because it can cause that confusion with the phenomenally tasted love. So that's why we use. So it starts with the egoic sense of love, which is a need, with this phenomenal love, which is just the experiencing of love and the experiencing of devotion in the two different flavors of love, and the truest sense of love, which is this pure oneness itself.
Thank you. So surrender is part of it, isn't it? That you constantly keep surrendering your sense of doership and your life.
It can seem like a constant process initially. In utopia, it would just be, my life is my father's problem now. Done. So it doesn't seem like it's a regular thing. It also seems like when you're faced with the biggest challenges, when something is happening, or it can become even a regular that my father take care of my life, something like that. You see? So in whichever way it comes, it's completely fine. Completely fine. It's very
What I meant
beautiful.
is, sometimes the sense of doership is yet there, right? It's not until it goes, it's not gone. So when it comes up in form of a worry or what next, you just surrender is what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's the part.
Yes. Yes. But surrender must not be confused with deal making.
Sorry?
It must not be confused with deal making ever. In the sense
Yes.
that many who are praying and surrendering to God actually are saying, I surrender to you, but make sure I get my business deal. I'm surrendering to you, but make sure I have a baby next year, or something like this. Okay? So that is more like deal making with God, not surrendering to God. Surrendering just means whatever you feel, whatever is your will for this flow of this life is completely fine by me. That is the purest form of sin. Those who are
Unconditional.
blessed, and those who are blessed with this kind of devotion, oh, beautiful. They all have witnessed the expression of such beautiful grace.
Please bless us. All of us with this kind of love, devotion.
Always, always. My blessings are always.
Thank you.
few words
Yeah.
on this topic only, because it's always, I feel my experience is in contradiction with what masters speak on this particular topic. That I often heard half portion of what you said is, yes, I agree that the phenomenal testing of love, it comes and goes, and the second half that you said, that sages relate love with the absolute, with the awareness. But I feel that love at max can be wanted to the consciousness, because without this sense of I am, I exist,
Yes.
there cannot be anything said. Nothing can be said. And I have also experienced that sometimes when by grace you could say mind collapse by itself, then there is this love without any cause or without any reason. You just feel it's like a perfume rising out of yourself. So I could say in one way that in that moment that I am love. In that moment I could say. So what I'm saying is that to talk about any of these things like love, bliss, or what, all these things, there must be first this sense that I am,
Yes.
I exist. Exactly. So when we are talking about the absolute, to which the sleep state is also like all these three states is also like a transition.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about that absolute, then nothing of these can be compared
Exactly.
with that. So when I hear someone says like love is beyond all, then I don't agree with these words, which is not in my experience.
So I completely am in agreement with you. The only thing is that when you hear very credible sources say that love is beyond all, some of the greatest sages, then it's best to contemplate and say what must they be implying. But because it cannot be that they were talking about this phenomenal love, because they've spoken so clearly about phenomena coming and going. Is it? So what is it that they must be implying? It must be talking about this oneness, non-separation. It cannot be about the phenomenal tasting of love.
What I understood about, for example, a few days ago, I heard Satguru speaking about this topic, and he said that he was inspiring the, he was, it's okay, I got it. He was inspiring that this urge or this longing for yoga or the union is in everyone, and what we really seek, and this is love, to find union with all that is. But he said that this love is to see other as yourself. But as far as I understand, that even if you experience everybody as your own body and all the forms as your own true form, but it's like scientifically understood that this entire universe has a beginning and will have definitely an end. So if you means label this oneness as love, then it's also will go one day. The universe is also subject to death. So I feel that it is not right to say that love is the ultimate.
Yes. But I don't find the point of disagreement actually. So that's what I'm saying. The love and bliss and peace and joy which are in service to our unassociated being, which are coming and going in the presence of being. But this, when they say the love, there is a love which is beyond all of this. It must only be that awareness which is beyond all of this. Therefore, it must be the oneness of this awareness which they are referring to as love. Not this oneness which you were talking about, the phenomenal, what you feel with others or the union with them. All that is phenomenal. If you were to keep it aside and then contemplate, because I also did this contemplation because I don't find this sense of love beyond all, but there's still so much reverence to the words of the sages that you say, they said beyond all of this there is love. What must that be? So it can only be, and I will accept only that answer, which is this sense of oneness, which is the oneness of awareness, non-phenomenal oneness, which they must be referring to as love.
So I was also thinking also, absolute of course is the highest, what where you mentioned. over there it's empty. There's nothing there. But then I was feeling like reading Papaji's words and all that maybe it is after you've seen that, there was a part of you which wanted to see that because you wanted to escape all your suffering, right? To get out of life and see that you're absolute emptiness, you're nothing wrong with you, nothing is happening. But then there is a coming back, and as in the world where you're okay to even be in the manifestation, and that maybe they're speaking about because their expression with those other, it's not like higher than the absolute,
exactly.
But basically you're willing to then come back as a person, as like a and be humble about that you can also be this and not be all highest all the time. So that was maybe my feeling. But of course, the highest cannot be.
No, I know what you're saying. That's why, and what you're describing is very well described in this same sense when I say sense of unassociated being. Because you realize that there is no person here, and the sense of unassociated being is there, then there can be this deeply felt love in the heart which flows like that. So it could be that. But the only point is that when they say that beyond all, even awareness, there is love. Because for me, and Azhar knows this also very well, that for me, it has to be seen. If it is not seen, then it could be the most credible of sources, then it's discarded. Because that's the way that our path is. If you're on the Jnana Yoga path, it must be that way. So, and yet there is so much reverence for the sages, especially somebody like Papaji. So you would say if Papaji said that beyond awareness or beyond all there is love, then what must he be speaking? Because it is not perceived, it is not seen directly, and I don't feel that Papaji would be someone who would just, if it was somebody else, you would feel like they're just dangling a carrot and they want to have more and more followers or something like that. But with a credible source like that, you would say, okay, so where was that coming from? Then it must be, when you're saying it's beyond, it must be talking about this oneness of awareness, isn't it? So it could be more like, when you say beyond, means after in time, when what you're saying makes complete sense also. Is that when you realize that you're unassociated being, in the presence of, then you find in that acceptance there's so much love which is there. In what you're saying makes complete sense also. Because when you realize that you're unassociated being,
Same goes with bliss, right?
Completely. That's why we started. Where we started the conversation is where we're ending this Satsang Hall. Which is that even bliss we must not chase. There's love, peace, joy, bliss. All of these are in service to unassociated being. Cannot be, at least in those phenomenal definitions of them, cannot be beyond you. Thank you all so very much for being in Satsang today. Satguru Shri Mujiji ki Jai.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone. Thank you so much. It's very good to be back, although for me it doesn't feel like there was a break at all. It seemed like I had satsang yesterday. I saw all your faces in the Hangout. Thank you all for your beautiful messages on YouTube as well. Thank you, Jesh, for moderating today. And we can turn the Hangout off now. We can turn the broadcast